I'm going to explain to you the biggest mistake that beginners make when they are starting to bulk. This is what I would teach you if you're in the Venegas Academy. So the first thing here that I'm trying to show to you is the personal progress that I've made using the methods that I'm going to teach you today. So this picture on the far left hand side was me at 135 pounds. You can see a big difference from me today, actually 175 pounds. So this is a pretty substantial difference. I understand that the angles may make me seem bigger on the left hand side, but in person you'll see that there is a very big significant difference for me on the left hand side to the right hand side over here, right? Especially look at the forearms. Massive difference. That's a good indicator that you've gained a lot of weight, and you can even see the love handles here. Huge, massive, complete difference. Me on the left from me on the right. I gained 40 pounds. This picture was taken on April 13th, 2023. This picture on the right hand side was taken October 20th, 2025. So you just have to take my word for it, because I know that it doesn't show on this one as well as it does on this one. So now what I want to teach you basically is fats is the most important thing when you're beginning to bulk. I know a lot of people like to say, oh, if you're trying to get big, you have to eat big, but don't go too heavy on the fats. Or they say, go heavy on the fats, but then people go too heavy. So I'm going to tell you something that's very controversial, but what actually took me to the physique that I have. And what I primarily did was I actually, especially when it began to get more difficult from, like, let's say 165 to 175, that last 10 pounds to get where I am, one of the very most key things was I started ingesting lots and lots of fats. That was something that was very key in my journey to gaining weight. So fats, right? There's lots of different fats, but mainly what I'm going to mention is unsaturated fats that you should be digesting are just going to be olive oil, but I wouldn't actually cook with it. And then saturated fats, which are going to be your animal fats, your butter, your ghee, your tallow. Those are going to be the primary things that you should be cooking with. Lots of beef tallow and lots of ghee. That's going to really take your physique to the next level. So you can't overindulge though, right? You can't just be eating lots of processed foods, lots of fats from this, but from animal sources is going to be the best sources of fats that you can get, or also from nuts and seeds. So what I would primarily recommend is cooking, just drizzling all of your meats. Get a high fat meat. So instead of getting the 97.3% ground beef that I know a lot of you guys like, I'd actually recommend get the 85-15, get the 80-20 ground beef instead. Get the high fat. Get the high fat version of all the meats. You eat steak, high fat steak. This is going to take your physique to the next level. So what I'd actually recommend is very controversial, but I would say high cardio on a bulk specifically, so that you can eat more, which I know that sounds kind of counterproductive. Like, oh, if it's already difficult to gain weight for me, then why am I going to do lots of cardio so that I now have to eat more if it's already difficult for me to eat more? And I'll tell you so that you can get the right amount of macros. So 1 gram of fats per pound of body weight, minimum 2, but I'm going to recommend 3 grams of protein or 2.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And then I'm going to say fill in the rest with carbohydrates to get to a point where you're gaining weight. Fill in the rest with carbohydrates. If it exceeds 3 grams of carbohydrates per pound of body weight, then I go back to the protein, add protein, and then so where carbs are a little bit on the lower side. So that's what I recommend. And then doing lots of high cardio to get it to where it can be at that macros to where you're gaining weight at a good pace and not a heavy pace is what I'd actually recommend. That's what really took my physique to the next level. So the next thing also is going to be physical training, like I mentioned. That's what I did. You don't actually have to do the high cardio, but that's how I did it, so that's what I'm telling you to do. I was training soccer at the ECNL and MLS next level, so that's actually what I was doing. That's the cardio that I was doing, training every day, plus in the weight room training. So that's why I was getting so much physical exercise in and burning so many calories, and that coupled with a high metabolism, which is why I had to eat so much. So that's how I did it. So that's how I'm going to literally teaching you how I did it, so you can replicate that by doing high sports. But if you're not going to play sports, then you can kind of skip over that. You still have to do physical weight training, but not as heavy on the cardio as I was potentially. So you just trim down the fat and the protein and the carbohydrate percentage a little bit, so you wouldn't be needing to eat 1 gram of fats per pound of body weight if you're not doing as much physical training as I was. But I was doing physical training, so that's why I recommend that and reciprocating that. The next thing is going to be cardio, super heavy on the cardio. So, like I said, endless snacks, soccer, high-level soccer training every single day. So lots of cardio. And then the weight training specifically, what I actually did that took my physique to the next level is I'd cycle between weights and calisthenics. So I'd either commit fully to calisthenics and drop the weight training, or I'd commit to the weight training and basically drop the calisthenics. Or 5% of my training would be calisthenics and 95% would be weight training, or 95 would be calisthenics, like 5% would be weight training. So that's how I do it. So I'd actually cycle back and forth, so it'd give my muscle a new stimulus. And also how you train is very important, because everyone recommends 8 to 15 reps, but I'd actually do something where I do low rep range. Let's say I do a 4-month cycle would look like this. Month 1 is going to be higher rep ranges, so lighter weight but more reps, calisthenics. Then month 2, high reps, low weight, machine training. Then I'd go back month 3, high weight, lower reps, calisthenics training, and then switch month 4, high weight, low reps, machine training. So that 4-month cycle really took my physique to the next level, because you're constantly changing the stimulus, so the muscle is forced to respond. Because if you do the same type of training for prolonged periods of times, the muscle, your body is very, very good at adapting, and it won't have a new desire to grow. So that's why I recommend, training with different stimuluses over time. And I was taking every single set to failure, and I'd even go beyond with doing partials and drop sets. So just training until I physically could not push the weight anymore. So training as hard as I could with every single set was something very important as well. Going until I literally couldn't anymore. And when I get to here on the bench press, because this is me fully extended, but this is me, like you can see the difference here. When I couldn't get it up, and then I'd come down, I'd pause it and I'd go again, until I literally couldn't do the thing anymore, and someone would have to help me so I didn't die on the machine or on the bench press. So I'd literally go until I could not go anymore. And then I'd do drop sets as well. So just training as physically hard as I possibly could. The next thing that I'm going to say, cardio, we already mentioned that. Intermittent fasting. So something that I was doing is I was just kind of eating throughout the day, small like snacks throughout the whole day, and that was not beneficial. What I did was intermittent fasting, and I know that this is controversial because most people recommend intermittent fasting when people are trying to lose weight. I'd actually recommend it for people who are beginning to start a bulk. So what do I mean by this? Don't eat in the morning and don't eat before bed, but during the day eat structured meals. So what this did was it actually taught me to eat meals instead of snacking. So I was able to eat more because I was eating big meals in the time that I could, because I was hungry, because I knew that if I didn't eat during the times that I should eat, then I was gonna be hungry is the first thing, but then also I wasn't gonna grow. So it forces you to eat big meals, right? Because you're gonna want to eat big meals as soon as as soon as you can eat, you're gonna want to eat because you're gonna be hungry because you haven't eaten in the morning. So it's gonna be a big meal, and then after that big meal, you're gonna come off, and then you want another big meal. So you're gonna have some big meals in this intermittent fasting block. So that actually helped me. But as you get on this, you may need to change that and actually ditch the intermittent fasting and just have big meals throughout the whole entire day. So meals versus snacks. You can't be snacking when you're bulking, okay? You need to eat meals throughout the day. Big meals, no snacking. Snacking is more of a cutting thing. If you want to get big and you're struggling to gain weight, snacking is going to prevent you from really getting hungry, which is going to prevent you from being able to eat, more meals. So snacking is the enemy when you're bulking. That's my personal advice. Controversial. Lots of people would disagree. But in my own personal experience in gaining weight, I had to stop snacking and just focus on getting the meals in. Focusing on big meals and getting them in throughout the day. Or lots of, regular sized meals throughout the day. Eat 10 meals a day. If you want to get big, after a certain threshold, the intermittent fasting isn't going to cut it, and you may need to just eat throughout the entire day, big meals throughout the entire day, eating every 2 hours, meal. I actually recommend from a health perspective, I think that intermittent fasting is fantastic, but if your goal is to gain weight, and your goal is to bulk, and that's your goal, that's not going to be congruent with health, the pinnacle of health and the pinnacle of living a lifestyle that is super healthy and super this. No, your goal is to get big. You clicked on this video because you wanted to bulk. You didn't want to, biohack, top 10 tips. No, this is objectively how you are going to get bigger. Once the intermittent fasting isn't cutting it and you reach a new threshold, you have to structure your meals throughout the day, maybe 10 meals a day. I've never actually done 10 meals a day, But what I'm doing now, because the intermittent fasting isn't cutting it, I'm doing 4 meals a day. And over time that's bumping up. Now I'm doing 5 meals, then 6 meals. Right now, 6 meals a day, right? Why? Because my goal is to get big. It's not to be healthy, it's to get big. So 6 meals a day. Take it 10. You may have to eat 14 meals a day. Every hour you're eating like a proper 800 calorie meal all throughout the day. So that's 8,000 calories in those 10 meals. If that's what you got to do, then that's what you got to do to get big. You have to eat the meals, and that may require you to eat throughout the whole day, just eating meals every hour. This isn't healthy, but this is going to get you big. I already mentioned this. High protein, lots of fat, lower on the carbs. Fats, proteins, then carbs. I was bullied. So basically, you have to have a reason that you're gonna really commit to the bulk. So I was always made fun of for being skinny, always made fun of for being a small guy. So I literally went from victim weight, 135 pounds. But even before that, what do you think? I was even lighter, right? So I'm gonna say 125. Then I got to 135, and then from 135, because that's a threshold where I knew a little bit, and then over 2 years I gained 40 pounds. And at the beginning I was being an idiot, right? But then once I really started making substantial progress, these are the keys that I'm giving you. So not when I was being an idiot at the start, but when I started making substantial and progress, that's advice I'm giving you. So you have to have a reason, right? I was always made fun of for being skinny. I was a small guy. Couldn't really defend myself that well. So that's why I made a decision to get big. And now I'm a bigger guy, 175. So I'm not big, but I'm not small, I would necessarily say anymore. So there's a reason. So then to go with that is your why. Why are you bulking? There has to be a reason, right? Because when it gets difficult, when you're eating those 10 meals a day, if you lose sight of the goal, right, there has to be a reason. Because if there's no good reason, then you're actually happy with your physique. But if you want to take it to the next level, you have to go through a bulk, right? Maybe you're a whatever it is, man. If you're doing sports, basketball players, have a lot of them in the Vegas Academy. You guys are super tall, but you need to fill out your frame. So there has to be a reason, right? You want to make it to the NBA, or you want to improve in the NBA, you gotta get bigger. Football players, you gotta get bigger. Wrestlers, you want to fight at a different weight class, you might have to bulk up, then get super lean at 5%. Whatever it is, it looks different for a lot of people, but you have to have a reason for actually doing this. Because if there's not a strong enough reason, then you're not going to stick with it. So that was my reason. I already told you, kind of the bullying, and also that in a way became my why. But now it's kind of shifted to just biohacking, and I want to hit a certain 225 pounds is what I want to weigh. Bigger guy, fill out my frame. Everybody has a different reason, but you need to actually have an objective reason as to why you're going through this fitness transformation. Why do you want to gain weight? Because if there's not a good reason, then you're not going to stick with it, right? If you want to really take your physique to the next level, then this is what you have to do. Or for sports, or for whatever reason, there has to be a reason for you to bulk. Because it does get difficult at a certain point when you're eating 10 meals a day. You've been doing it for a month straight. You feel sick. You know what I mean? It's not easy, but so you have to stick with it. So you actually have to have a reason that reminds you of why you're even doing this. Is that my last slide here? Vegas Academy. So I'll just finish with this. I run a school community called Vegas Academy, where I teach you how I objectively accomplished all the things that I accomplished, and I can teach you habit formation, biohacking, how to gain weight, how to lose weight. It can help you with the fitness goals because I've done it. There's objective proof again over here of what I've done and how you can basically reciprocate it and learn from me. And there's other guys in there, so it's not just me. There's other teachers in there, so it's an amazing community. Lots of courses, lots of information in there. Get one-on-one coaching from me. It's a fantastic place, and a brotherhood of young men who are going to help and guide you. So you can see 135 to 175. I usually don't do this, but I'll show you my physique. This is not pumped. This is just me kind of around, so it's not too crazy a physique, right? But this is just me sitting down. I promise you I'm not pumped or anything. So this is just me objectively, and you can, I don't know if the pictures don't do it justice, but this is kind of what I look like, just walking, just sitting here. So I feel like that's a big substantial difference from the picture, me 2 years ago and, me on the right. So that's how it is. You guys don't get to see my leg progress, but I also grew my legs. Train legs as well. Don't just do upper body. It's specifically important on the bulk. You're not focusing on body composition, because some people, this is very rare, but some people actually have big legs, so when they cut down, they don't focus on legs as much and they focus on upper body more. When you're bulking, you want to grow everything. Just grow everything. Grow everything. You're not at the level where you want to focus on specific. If anything, focus on your legs more, because I know majority of you have smaller legs in comparison to your upper body. So if anything, train legs more during the bulk. So yeah, that's what I mean. Just get as big as possible. And if you're still here, the last final tip. This is actually very unhealthy. And I did this for a little bit, but I stopped doing it because it's unhealthy and it's not something I would normally recommend. But something you can actually do after you eat a big meal, you can basically like damage your stomach by drinking a lot of water. Like let's say you just had a big meal, you eat past the point of being full, you're almost like ready to throw up, and then you just drink a bunch of water immediately after eating. So this is not good for numerous reasons, but over time this can actually stretch the your intestines and make them bigger, so it gets easier to just eat and fill up the room in there in your stomach, and not intestines, but makes your stomach bigger because you're eating so much, and also getting that water, so it just expands your stomach, and over time this can stretch it out and make it bigger. So this isn't actually healthy, but if your goal is to just get as big as possible, that's going to be one thing that can help you. One final pro tip that's unhealthy, but bodybuilder people have done it and have said that objectively it helped them. It comes with a lot of risks, though. It's not like doing steroids or anything, but it does come with its risks. So don't push it too much, you know what I mean? Don't want to rupture your stomach or anything. But drinking the water after you eat, it's unhealthy, but if your only goal that you care about is just getting as big as possible, that's something that can help you continue to bulk over time. Thanks for watching this video. There's going to be a new video somewhere else. Go and watch that. Subscribe to German Academy. See you in the next video.